Thanks asking. I'm doing okay. How are you? Good morning, all. So today we will start by saying some words from the book of Deuteronomy, as we do, and then we will shift time and place to ancient Mesopotamia and hymns to the goddess Inanna. And then we will continue our journey in time and space east, and recite some hymns in Sanskrit. And then we will conclude with Kaddish, a prayer of mourning. Good morning, Sophie. Shabbat Shalom. How are your travels? Where are you spending the holidays? So, this first prayer that we'll say, it says, copy me. So we say it. Shema Yisrael Asher Eloheinu Yahweh Echad. Vahafta et Anat Elohecha ובכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך וחיו הדברים האלה אשר נוחי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאהוד על ידיך וחיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך וחיה כי ויחיו אלוהיך אל הארץ אשר נשבע לאבותיך לאברהם ליצחק וליעקב לתת לך ערים גדולות וטובות אשר לא בנית ובתים מלאים כל טובה אשר למילאת ואורות עצובים אשר לא עשת כערים וזיתים אשר נטעת והלכת ושבת הישמר לך פן תשכח את יהוה אשר תישך מארץ מצרים מבית עבדים. So, Sophie, you asked me last week what the meanings of these prayers were, so I can translate that one for you. The first comes in 3 parts, right? And those 3 parts are repeated in different concentrations in the liturgy. So the first part, the Shema, is repeated all the time, forever. 6 words. Shema Yisrael, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad. Listen, Israel, Yahweh, El, Yahweh Echad, one. Right, so it's a statement of monotheism that was written down by the Deuteronomistic priests, the revisionists, who were returning to Israel at the end of the Babylonian exile. And they wrote those words to insist on a kind of monotheism, syncretic monotheism that had not existed in quite that form earlier in history. Good morning, baby love. How are you? It's been a while. Really nice to see you. So, the prayer goes on, as many of you have heard me repeat dozens of times. Vahafta, and you shall love Yahweh Eloheinu with all your heart, and all your soul, and all your might. And these words that I'm repeating to you today, teach them to your children. The way that I interpret that is teach them to your friends on TikTok. Recite them when you wake up in the morning, as I do. When you go to bed at night, don't do that. And when you are traveling, and when you are at home. And you shall Bind them as a symbol on your hand, and let them serve as a sign on your forehead, and inscribe them on the doorposts of your houses and on your gates. So repeat the words, because the words say repeat. So I do. And here we are, together, muttering memes to one another to remind ourselves how human we all are. I'm doing pretty well. I think I've turned a corner in the last few days. Yeah, you're not supposed to say Yahweh. That was another reformation of those Deuteromistic priests, right? Like, prior to the Babylonian exile in 586 BC, Yahweh was said commonly, right, in association with a pantheon. So Yahweh and Ashra and Baal and El, and many others, right? Yahweh was one name among many. And so there was this linguistic move to, no, you're not actually that late, Avi. I haven't, I'm just giving the same lecture that I've given 10,000 times, because I like to. I don't know. You've already heard this, but I'll just keep going. There was this linguistic move that was done by these reforming priests, right, as they were trying to establish a cultural, ethnic, xenocentric identity, right? That they wanted to abstract the concept of Yahweh from, like, a character in a pantheon, right, like a superhero character. They wanted to translate that into something more universal, right, like more abstract, more eligible of being the one and only God. Good morning, Batya. Right, so they created some rules that, like, you can't say the name Yahweh unless you are the high priest in the temple on the Holy of Holy Days, Yom Kippur, and only if you are inside the Holy of Holies, right, inside the sacred tabernacle. So it's a means of communicating a different vision of God, right? A vision of God that was more removed, more abstract, less personal, less human. You know, I can respect and even admire some of those theological goals as far as they went, right? Like, I do think that there's importance in monotheism, but I think there's also a lot of damage done in, like, insisting that, like, the character of Yahweh, who's still, like, you know, jealous and misogynistic and violent and vengeful, right? Like, that those qualities could still be attached to something, some, like, Godhead that, by the way you are naming it, you're claiming it to be universal and transcendent. There's something lost in that translation, right? So I say Yahweh to remind myself and to remind you that we are indeed talking about a character like Zeus or Anat or Poseidon or Shiva, right? And these characters have properties, you can imagine them, and that means that they are not all, right? So when I pray to Yahweh, I am praying to, like, a misogynistic father king, and the way that that character has influenced our society. And I prefer to concretize my words in that direction, remind myself and others that, yes, you know, that image of God King is still alive and well, and still influences people, whether or not I want it to. So it's a little bit of sacrilege, but I think it's an important bit of sacrilege. I refilled the fire, and now the flame is a little bit too large. But I think it's okay. Good morning, Dr. Punk. How are you? So, now we're gonna shift our attention to a different god, a goddess, Inanna. What is what? This? It's a candle. It's a little candle. It's a holy flame, right? Light it whenever I stream. I light it because you know, having holy flames is important. It's Hanukkah, right? This is my my grandmother's menorah. Ugh, it's so dusty. I didn't clean it. So tonight is the second night of Hanukkah, so we will be lighting these candles. But you know, I light a single candle whenever I pray in the morning, because that's It's well and good and important. Oh, and I've lost the candles. Ugh. Okay, good enough. Make a tutorial on how to make little candles like this? Just buy the ingredients, buy lamp oil, buy wick, find something to stick them all together in. It's really not hard. Get a little jar. So, we are going to stop. It's really okay. Like, it has, okay, there's like a little stand for it. You see there's a hole, right? It just fits right nicely in here. It's just like holding a candle. It's not that bad. I promise you. But I won't do fire tricks for you because that will make you uncomfortable. Maybe I should make you a little uncomfortable. Yes, if I tipped it over, it would go out right away. I don't know. I've always liked playing with fire. I've had a few close calls, but not really. It's just flame. I've been doing it for 2 years, taunting you. But I like flirting with you, Abby. It's fun. No, it's the other way around. The oil burns, not the wick. That's why we use wicks. The wicks transfer the oil, and the oil is refillable. I try not to replace the wick if I can help it. So, this hymn to Inanna is called Lady of the Evening. It's brief. These are brief descriptions of the goddess Inanna. At the end of the day, the radiant star, the great light that fills the sky, the Lady of the Evening appears in the heavens. The people in all the lands lift their eyes to her. The men purify themselves, the women cleanse themselves. The ox in his yoke lows to her. The sheep stir up the dust in their fold. All the living creatures of the steppe, the four-footed creatures of the high steppe, the lush gardens and orchard, the green reeds and trees, the fish of the deep and the birds of the heavens, the lady makes them all hurry to their sleeping places. Right, so they're talking about Venus, right? The end of the day, the evening star, the radiant star, Venus, the evening, right? So this is why people say that, like, Inanna is associated with Aphrodite, is associated with Venus. Like, obviously these were different parts of the ancient Mediterranean world, but they associated the goddess with the same astral symbolism. The living creatures and their numerous people of Sumer kneel before her. Those chosen by the old woman prepare great platters of food and drink for her. The lady refreshes herself in the land. There's great joy in Sumer. The young man makes love to his beloved. The lady looks in sweet wonder from heaven. The people of Sumer parade before the holy Inanna. Inanna, the lady of the evening, is radiant. I sing your praises, holy Inanna. The lady of the evening is radiant on the horizon. And here we have a ancient clay pornography. You see that? Specifically the line, the young man likes love with his beloved. There we have ancient pornography. It's very important. So now we will move on. The Lady of the Morning. Right, so this is, again, Venus, in this case, the morning star. Did you know that the morning star and the evening star are the same star, and they're not a star, they're a planet? Honored counselor, ornament of heaven, joy of An. When sweet sleep has ended in the bedchamber, you appear like bright daylight. When all the lands and the people of Sumer assemble, those sleeping on the roofs and those sleeping by the walls, when they sing your praises, bring their concerns to you, you study their words. You render a cruel judgment against the evildoer, you destroy the wicked, you look kindly eyes on the straightforward. You give that one your blessing. The lady looks in sweet wonder from heaven to the people of Sumer parade before the holy Inanna. Inanna, the Lady of the Morning, is radiant. I sing your praises, holy Inanna. The Lady of the Morning is radiant on the horizon. Shall we read one more? The lady who ascends into the heavens. My lady, the amazement of the land, the lone star, the brave one who appears first in the heavens. All the lands fear her. In the pure places of the steppe, on the high roofs of the dwelling, on the platforms of the city, they make offerings to her. Piles of incense like sweet-smelling cedar, fine sheep, fat sheep, long-haired sheep, butter, cheese, dates, fruits of all kinds. They purify the earth for my lady. They celebrate her in song. They fill the table of the land with first fruits. They pour dark beer for her. They pour light beer for her. Dark beer, emmer beer for my lady. The Sugvat, don't know what that is, and the Lamarsi Vat make a bubbling noise for her. They prepare gug bread in date syrup for her. Yeah, I mean, these are all of these, traditional foods that they would have given Inanna. They prepare gug bread and date syrup for her, flour and honey, beer at dawn. They pour wine and honey for her at sunrise. The gods and the people of Sumer go to her with drink and food. They feed Inanna in a pure, clean place. My lady looks in sweet wonder from heaven. The people of Sumer parade before the holy Inanna. Inanna, the lady who ascends into the heavens, is radiant. I sing your praises, holy Inanna. The lady who ascends into the heavens is radiant on the horizon. The Musar Torah commentary. Not particularly. I mean, there are many, many Torah commentaries. The bedside Torah commentary. No, I have not read either of those. My goal is to read the entire Torah first, right? And I'm maybe halfway through that, right? Read the primary sources. I always return back to primary sources. And once I read all of that, then I can start reading the Babylonian and Jerusalem Talmuds, right? I mean, that's the traditional studies to go through the Talmud. And I imagine those commentaries are like more modern commentaries, like summarizing both the primary text and the secondary commentaries on it, right? And then there's Mishnah, right? The Mishnah are commentaries on the Talmud, commenting on the Torah, right? So the Jewish tradition is just commentary upon commentary upon commentary. And I don't know how to be discerning, frankly, right? Because there's so much garbage or just like theology that I don't want to ingest. And so my strategy has tended to be to go back to the root, right? Find the oldest thing you can read that, and develop your own interpretation, which of course is a very old strategy, right? Prisca sapientia. It's a Latin term, an alchemical term, right? The alchemists of early modern Europe talked about how the ancients had more pure access to the divine, and then over the course of translation and translation of translation, the scripture got corrupted, right? So the alchemists were trying to return to the source, and of course they couldn't because they didn't have access to the most ancient texts the way that we do today, because we have the internet and archaeology and things. But yes, it is a giant game of telephone. And so, thus far, I have avoided reading commentary on Jewish texts for the most part. But one day, when I stop studying education theory, I stop working on my PhD, and I'll start a more rigorous religious education. Then I will probably read some Talmudic commentaries, yeah. So now it is time for Arati. The word Arati means flame in Sanskrit. Flame, right? And by the same water bottle, you mean a 3-year-old milk jug that everybody gives me shit about? Like, I probably should get rid of it. Like, I'm sure there's stuff growing in there at this point because it's been continuously filled with water for 2 years, 3 years. But it works, and it's the right size. So I keep it here. Clutching your pearls. My mother gave me this pearl necklace recently. It's really nice, isn't it? And there's matching earrings. I feel like really luxurious when I wear it, 'cause there's no way I could afford this kind of jewelry. But my mother makes a lot more money than I do, so she can give me nice objects from time to time. So, Arati. The word Arati means flame in Sanskrit. We have our little flame, right? So what this prayer is light praise. Jai means praise, or means Jai. It's just a syllable. And Arati means light or flame. And then what comes after is the name of a god. So we'll repeat various names of various gods as a reminder that they all represent the same thing at root. That's how it works. So, Jaya Jaya Arati Vina Vinayaka Vina Vinayaka Shri Ganesha Jaya Jaya Arati Subramanya Subramanya Kartikeya Jaya Jaya Arati Venugopala Venugopala Venuola Papa Vidura Navanita Chora Jaya Jaya Arati Venkanta Ramana Venkanta Ramana Sankata Rana Sita Rama Radhe Shama Jaya Jaya Arati Gauri Manohara Gauri Manohara Bhavani Sankara Samba Sadashiva Uma Maheshwara Jaya Jaya Arati Raja Rajeshwari Raja Rajeshwari Tripura Sundari Mahalakshmi Mahasaraswati Mahakali Mahashakti Jaya Jaya Arati Anjaneya Anjaneya Hanumanta Jaya Jaya Arati Dattatreya Trimutriya Vatara Jaya Jaya Arati Adityaya Adityaya Bhaskaraya Jaya Jaya Arati Sanistaraya Sanistaraya Bhaskaraya Jaya Jaya Arati Sankarachaya Sankarachaya Advaita Gurave Jaya Jaya Arati Sadgurunata Sadgurunata Shivananda Jaya Jaya Arati Vishnu Devananda Vishnu Devananda Vishnu Devananda Jaya Jaya Arati Agastya Munaye Agastya Munaye Shriyama Priyaye Jaya Jaya Arati Ayapa Samine Dharma Shastave Jaya Jaya Arati Jesus Gurave Moses Gurave Buddha Gurave Jaya Jaya Arati Muhammad Gurave Guru Nanak Gurave Samastya Gurupodamaha Jaya Jaya Arati Venugopala Natatra Suyobati Natandrakara Tam Nemavriobati Kudoyamagni Tomeva Bantamaramanti Sarvam Tasya Basya Samitam Vivanti Om Gange Kayamane Kaiva Govari Saraswati Narmade Siddhikarveri Hiya Namastitam Namo Namaha Twameva Mata Jabita Twameva Bandusha Saka Twameva Vidya Javinam Twameva Sarvam Mama Deva Kayena Vacha Manasindriyarva Budyatmanava Prakriti Sabhavad Karomi Adyat Sakalam Parasmahi Narayana Iti Sarmar Payami Sarvadamam Pravichaya Mamikam Saranam Vrija Aham Sva Sarva Papayo Mokshaya Mima Sucha. Whatever actions I perform with my body, speech, mind, and senses, my nature, my intellect, or my emotions, all these I dedicate to you. To all of you. Thank you so much for being here. No, I do not keep kosher, let alone strictly kosher. I'm not one for purity traditions, basically. Like, I interpret the kashrut largely as an expression of xenophobia, right? And perhaps that is dismissive, but certainly, like, what you eat and the rules governing what you eat and who you eat with are a very, very strong controlling element in your culture, right? If you can't share food with someone, you can't share culture with them. It's fairly simple, actually. And, so we can look at the development of the kosher laws. Hanukkah, right? This holiday that's happening now. One of the memes associated with Hanukkah is that King Antiochus had the high priest of the temple in Jerusalem at that time, right? We're talking like 150 BC-ish. The high priest was assassinated by the Seleucid Greeks. And they assassinated the priest, and then they renovated the temple and started worshipping Greek gods, right? And they sacrificed a pig on the altar to Yahweh. And there had already been a taboo against eating pork in the Judean people for some time, but when the Greeks took this like very flagrant insulting thing, right? Like they assassinated the priest, and then they like did blasphemy on the altar very deliberately as a sign of power, right? It emphasized, right, and sort of like reified this prohibition against eating pork. Right, and if you had experienced that trauma, right, like if your if the center of your religious world had been desecrated with a particular animal, you would not eat that animal. But like in general, the kosher laws, like the way that they work in practice for Haredi Jews, right, is they prevent those Jews from sharing food with people who don't follow all the same rules that they do. No, not that Jews could eat pork at one point, but like if you look back into the archaeological record of the Levant, right, you will see that there was pork consumption in that region at low levels. And if you look at the archaeological record of say, Greece, you will find that there was pork consumption at higher levels. So there was a gradual transformation of just sort of like an economic trend, a cultural economic trend of like, oh, people who live in Judah, they don't really eat pork because like the land doesn't support pigs as well as it supports like marginal goats eating in desert pastures, right? Like there were like geological, ecological reasons why pork was less popular in that region. And then over time it became political, right? Like it became a cultural marker of a certain kind of identity. Like I think that's fine. Like there are good reasons to keep kosher, but I think what you see in quite a lot of the traditions that I espouse here, right? Like I'm not one for isolationism, or to prioritize a particular tradition over any other, right? Like I pray in Hebrew and in Sanskrit, and I say the name Yahweh for a reason, right? Like I incorporate blasphemy, basically, right? Like I incorporate explicit heresy into what I do here deliberately, because I don't like certain sort of boundaries. Right? I don't like boundaries. I'm not a man, I'm not a woman, I'm not a Jew, not anything else. Like, I find difficulty with categories. I find categories violent. And so while I recognize that kashrut laws, they serve a purpose, right? Like they maintain a culture. They maintain cultural continuity over thousands of years. They also maintain isolation, right? They maintain disconnection from those who are different from you. And that's not necessarily something that I want in my life. Right? Like I live on a commune where we have extremely strong food values, right? Like in a certain sense, like we do keep kosher, like not kosher by any of the rules that the Torah has written down. Like we eat pork all the time, but we eat meat that we grow ourselves, right? That we butcher ourselves. We eat vegetables that we grow ourselves. We scavenge out of the dumpster, right? Like our food values are very strong, very dogmatic in a certain respect. And I have no need to make them stronger or more dogmatic than they already are, right? Like I want to share my food with other people. So I'm not going to place limitations on what I can eat, beyond the limitations that the culture around me has already implicitly placed on me. I'm living your actual dream. You'd be surprised how nightmarish it can be sometimes. Like, I don't valorize it. There are certain things about living this way that are really lovely, and there are other things that are incredibly hard and frustrating. I get deeply frustrated by the ideology of the people that I live with. the kind of righteous purity that they bring to the kind of food that they want to eat, I find it infuriating often. So, it is what it is. So, I'm supposed to answer your question briefly. No, I do not keep kosher, but I think about food and food values all the time. Hey, hippie heart. How are you? Dr. Punk, are you getting impatient? Snakes and mushrooms and goats. I think it might be time for Arati. So. You felt left out. Well, I'm glad that you can multitask and you can have me on in the background while you're doing your important business. That's pretty good. Well, you're just in time for grief time. So we're going to say Kaddish. Kaddish means holy in Hebrew. Kadosh means holy in Hebrew. Kaddish means prayer, perhaps. Here's Katesh. Sexy Canaanite goddess, arouses Egyptian gods left and right. She's great. Anyhow. Kaddish is a prayer of grief. I'm happy to see you too, Shannon. It's a prayer of mourning. So when we say Kaddish, we can remind ourselves of what we have lost. Those people in our lives that are no longer with us. And we say words to connect ourselves to those that we say the words with, right? These words might be about people who are no longer here, but we say them together. And I think that's very important. Grief is an emotion that needs to be processed collectively. So, for the last 2,500 years or so, give or take, my ancestors have been saying these words in response to death. Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shema Rabbah. B'yama divrach yote v'yamlich malchute b'chayachon v'yomechon v'chayed kol beit Yisrael b'gala v'zman karyu v'imru. Amen. Yehi Shema Rabbah mev'arech li'alam amei amaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbar v'yirmam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalei v'yitalal Shema dekudisha b'rechu leila min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata d'yamiran b'yama v'imru. Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabbah min Shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'yachol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mirmav Huya aseh shalom aleinu v'yachol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mirmav Huya aseh shalom aleinu v'yachol Yisrael v'imru v'imru. Amen. Thank you so much for joining me here today. Sophie, I do have mods. Some of them are here right now. When I started doing this stream 2 years ago, my TikTok account was exploding, right? Like I got 500,000 followers in a few months. And I haven't been doing that work. I haven't been making new content. So the algorithm deprioritizes the stream, so the only people here are people who've been here reliably for a long time. So that reduces the needs for mods tremendously. Like when we began, I don't know if any of you remember, right? Like I would get dozens of trolls, like sending me all sorts of hateful, transphobic stuff. And it still happens from time to time, but TikTok's auto moderation has gotten a lot better. And also just like we have a culture here now, right? Like there's there's a community, and the community is self-selecting. The training was rigorous. Yeah. I did actually, like, you can go on the Discord and you can see I wrote some things in, like, early 2021 about, like, what I expect out of a moderator. Like the kinds of comments to filter out and things, and it's just less necessary now because the stream is smaller. And maybe one day, when I'm not working on my PhD anymore, I do intend to return to TikTok full time at some point when I can economically justify it, because like it doesn't pay like a full-time job. I'll make like $30 a month or whatever if I do it, but I love it. So I will return to TikTok full time at some point, and at that point, the need for moderators may grow. But yeah, thank you for keeping this stream such a vibrant and healthy place for everyone. Like it's really incredible. I'm so grateful. And if you like, you can so if you're not in the Discord server, some of you are not. You can. There's a link to my Discord server in my bio. There's also a link to Koji links, right? Like if you want to give a tip, a one-time tip, or you can subscribe on Patreon, or you can send gifts on TikTok. There's lots of ways to support what we do here. But I am so incredibly grateful that I get to spend this time with you all every morning. So I will see you again tomorrow, and I hope you have a really lovely day. Farewell.